Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar, Social Media Basics for Small Business. So glad to have everyone here and thanks for taking the time out of your day to do so. My name is Sarah Burke and I'm going to be your presenter today. I'm also the content marketer at Spokel and I've been doing this job for the last 9 or 10 months or so. It's an amazing job that gives me the opportunity to talk to small business owners and startups all the time and really get to know what they need and what they want and what information will help them grow. And one of the things I get asked about a lot is social media. So while I can answer all of these questions individually, I'm a firm believer that if one person's asking a question, then there's probably going to be 10 other people behind them asking the same thing. So I thought putting together a webinar on the topic would be super useful. Here's a look at what we're going to be talking about today. First, I'm going to discuss why social media is so great for small business. Then I'll discuss the top 5 social media platforms and I'll go into a little bit of detail on those. And then I'll run through what to share, when to share it, how often to share it, and all that good stuff. And finally, I'm not just going to leave you with all that information. I'm going to finish with some actionable tips and how to get started. First of all, just a few housekeeping details. This webinar will be recorded and a replay of the webinar will be sent to you directly to your inbox just a few hours after the webinar finishes. So you can share that with anyone you think this will be useful for, or if you just want to watch it again, if you think you missed a few points that you'd like to go over, feel free to share that with somebody. And then at the end of the webinar, there will be 5 minutes for Q&A. I am hosting and presenting this all on my own, so it's kind of hard for me to go back and forth with the chat. So if you could just hold your questions till the very end, I'll get to them then. So let's jump right in. Why is social media so great for your business? So this is a really important question to ask because if you're not convinced that social media will benefit your business, then you'll probably be less likely to devote the time and energy to it that it needs. So the first reason that social media is so great for small business is that everyone is on it. This isn't normally a great reason to do anything, I know, but the thing is with marketing, if your audience is there and your competition is there, then you should be there too. And if you're not, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. People are on social media to ask questions, to get information, and to start conversations. So if you're not there to answer these questions, to start these conversations, to give that information, you can guarantee that your competition is, because 87% of B2Bs and 86% of B2Cs are already on social media. That's a huge percentage of businesses that are there already. And 89% of 18 to 29-year-olds and 82% of 30 to 49-year-olds are on social media too. And again, that's a huge percentage of the population. That means there's a huge potential to market your business there. Always go where your customers are, right? The second reason that social media is so great for your business is that it guides purchasing decisions. So consumers are 71% more likely to make a purchase based on social media referrals. And out of 53% of consumers who said that they use Twitter to recommend companies or products in their tweets, 48% bought that product or service. So recommenders on Twitter tend to also purchase the product or service that they're recommending. 74% of consumers rely on social networks to guide purchasing decisions. And this is only the data we know of people who are conscious of doing these things. A lot of this happens very unconsciously. And I have a feeling as social media develops and becomes more integral in our lives and the next generation take hold, this is going to even be a higher number. Social also encourages word of mouth. So remember before the internet was born when we used to get reviews of products and services from our neighbors over the backyard fence? Well, social media is the new backyard fence. This is where we're having conversations with our friends and family. 81% of US online consumers' purchasing decisions are influenced by their friends' social media posts. 43% of consumers are more likely to buy a new product when learning about it on social media. Word of mouth is one of the most powerful marketing tools we have at our disposal. So it's important to realize that social media is a powerful tool and driving force behind that. I know personally, I've made purchasing decisions based off of word of mouth on social media. And I'm sure if you thought about it enough too, you'd see the same trend. And finally, the last reason that social media is so great for business is that it helps with SEO. So social signals from likes, tweets, shares, etc., tell search engine bots that your content is good. And they use this information to rank that content higher. And this is becoming an increasing trend as the years go by. So search engines are looking at social signals more and more. So now that we've established why social media is so great for your business, let's talk about what's going on these social media platforms that make it so good. So imagine this is your website. A customer comes in and has a great experience. They like what you do. They like you, so they leave. And they leave happily. And they decide to keep in touch with you via social media. So you engage with them and you give them another great experience, give them awesome information, and you stay top of their mind, which means that they are likely to return to your business. So this cycle can happen again and again as long as you're putting great content out there and engaging customers and giving a great service when they do purchase with you. But social media engagement has a secondary function as well, and that's that it drives social visibility, which means that more people can see you. So when friends and family like posts or they have engagement with a business, that's usually visible on their pages. And it means that their social circles will see your business and will be enticed by what you're offering, especially if your customers are raving about you and saying how fantastic you are. Again, that comes back to the word of mouth. So the more social visibility you have, the more prospects you have. And obviously, the more prospects you have, the chances are the more customers that you'll have as well. So as you can see, social media engagement not only helps you retain customers like it does in the first cycle, but also generates new ones. So which social media platform is best for your business? You can't be on them all. There's a lot out there. So I'm just going to discuss the top 5, which are Pinterest, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google, and Facebook. Let's start with Facebook, which is the most popular social media network out there. Everyone is on it. And they're looking for text posts, visuals, memes, and videos, anything entertaining, anything interesting, anything educational. And that's what makes Facebook amazing for textual content, for visual content, for video content. Really, any type of content works quite well on Facebook. It's used mostly by B2Bs, B2Cs, nonprofits for marketing purposes. Everyone can really market on Facebook. The second most popular platform is Twitter. It has a lot of users with 650 million people on it. On average, they're a little younger, but their incomes tend to be a little higher. People go on Twitter to learn about updates and trends and news. It's a very fast-moving platform. This is where you'll hear the newest and most up-to-date information. So if something happens in the world, generally Twitter will hear about it first. Because of this, it's really good for sharing news and for original content and curated content. Like Facebook, B2Bs, B2Cs, nonprofits are all quite active on the platform for marketing purposes. LinkedIn, however, is a little bit more specific. It's a business-oriented social media platform. It has 300 million people on it, but they only use it for about 4 hours or less a week. People go on LinkedIn to learn about industry news, tips, advice, business-related content, just anything that's related to their industry, really. Because of this, it's become a great place to read about thought leadership, read from some really well-known names in your industry, but it's also a great place to become a thought leader if that's something you're interested in. And it's used mostly B2Bs because it is, like we said, it's a business-oriented social media platform. So it's used mostly by B2Bs to market. Google Plus has 550 million active monthly users, but they're mostly white and male. And they're mostly professionals. It's like Facebook in that people look for all kinds of content there. Google Plus has some great communities that you can follow and read others' content, which increases your expertise. It also increases your searchability, which means that if you have a lot of engagement on Google Plus, then that generally helps with your content's ranking on Google search engine result pages. It's mostly used by B2Bs and B2Cs to market on. Pinterest is another niche social media platform, kind of like LinkedIn, but it's on the other end of the spectrum. 80% of its 70 million users, 70 million active monthly users are women, and they tend to have a higher income. Pinterest is all about visuals, so photos of products and infographics work really well. It's mostly used by B2Cs, and it gets more referral traffic than Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit, and Google Plus combined. Of course, there are plenty of other social media platforms out there. For example, Instagram, YouTube, Reddit, Snapchat, Tumblr, Sue, etc., etc., etc. And sometimes these alternative social media platforms can actually work better for businesses than more popular sites. So it doesn't do any harm to do some research and try these platforms out for personal use first. If you think that they might suit your business better than the more mainstream ones. I've spoken to businesses where they have effectively marketed solely on YouTube and Instagram and Pinterest because they have a very visual product. I've also spoken to businesses who market really, really successfully on Reddit and Tumblr because their audience tends to be a little bit more techie. They tend to be millennials. They tend to hang out in the less mainstream social media platforms. So it's just all about understanding your audience and trying the platforms out to see which best suits your business. But what do you actually say on these platforms? Obviously, it all depends on your business, of course. There isn't a clear set of rules that you have to follow, but that doesn't really help you right now. So just to give you a starting point, the 5-3-2 rule is often used as a template for good social sharing etiquette. And what that means is for every 10 pieces of content you share, 5 should be curated, 3 should be your own, and 2 should be other or off-topic entertaining content. Again, this is just a template. Play around with it, test it, and see what ratios work best for you. Curated content is content that you find from another source in your industry, and a good portion of your content that you share on social media should be curated. So you simply find relevant content in your industry that you think your audience will love. So a lot of times it's stuff that you'll be interested in as well. Then you just tag or mention the source that you're sharing the content from. This is a great way to build relationships with other businesses. And that's super, super important. And you can usually find really good sources of information from your emails. So don't forget to sign up for newsletters from other businesses in your industry. Social media, obviously you should be following people in your industry, thought leaders, etc. And Scoop It and Stumble Upon are also really, really good for finding curated content. 30% of your content can be your own. Obviously, this isn't about salesy. People don't like following brands that always push their own stuff. So personalize your social sharing as well. So don't be salesy and personalize it. And what I mean by personalization is that don't just do the headlines plus link to the post. That's kind of boring. A lot of broadcasters who rely too heavily on social media automation follow that template all the time. And what happens is people start to block it out. People realize that there's not really a person behind those posts that are willing to engage with them. And social media is all about those conversations. So you have to make people aware that there is somebody behind those posts, that there is somebody behind that account that is ready and willing to talk. Also, don't forget to add an image to the post when possible. Visuals get a lot more attention on social media than simple text posts. And this is even true of social media platforms where visuals aren't that big a deal, like Twitter. It still gets more engagement. So if you can, try to add a visual in there with your social sharing. And finally, 20% of your content should be personal or funny. This is a great place to show people that you're human. Again, like I was saying about sharing your own content, it's really, really important to make sure that people understand that there's a human behind the social media accounts that is sitting there willing to talk and answer questions and give you information. So this 20% of other content should be personal or funny. It's a great place to show people that you're human. It makes a business much more likable, much more transparent, and it's super easy to do. So quotes are really effective, maybe a funny cartoon, your thoughts on life, jokes, statistics, data relevant to your industry, anything like that's fantastic. Obviously, you still have to be appropriate. So this isn't a personal account. This is still talking to a wider audience. This is still a business talking. So don't get too informal. Be conversational, but definitely in a polite way. So there's an example there that I shared of the Vince Vaughn stock photos, and I just thought they were really, really funny, but they're also kind of relevant to my industry, which is marketing, right? Where we all at one time or another use stock images. So I shared that. Now it's a way for me to be kind of personal and entertaining, at the same time, clearly interested in my industry and giving people information about it. So now you know what to post. Let's talk about when to post it. Again, this varies from business to business, and you have to test it to really figure out what works best for you. It's like the 5-3-2 rule. I'm giving you these kind of as guides or templates, but definitely play around with them and figure out which works best for you. So for Facebook, it's advisable to post 3 times a week. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but that's the quantity of posts that gets the most engagement. So Facebook is really for people to talk to their friends and family, and people tend to get annoyed at seeing ads or business posts there too often, and they'll mute you or they'll unfollow you. So it's good to post on Saturdays too, as that's when most people are on Facebook to share. But definitely about 3 times a week seems to be the happy medium. Twitter, on the other hand, is really, really fast. So you can post anywhere from 18 minutes to 2 hours there, which is about 12 times a day or more. And you can share a lot of content there on Twitter without really annoying people, because it updates so quickly. They won't see, or you won't be flooding anybody's streams. Pinterest, you can post as much as you want. Most of the pins on your boards are going to be curated content, so it's not like you're plugging your own content all the time. Google Plus is about 1 to 2 times a day. There's not a whole lot of study on this yet. It's just a guide that some of the big Google Plus superstars have suggested. I've posted more and it's been fine. So again, it's just about finding that happy medium for yourself. LinkedIn themselves suggest that you post 20 times a month, which works out to about 5 times a week, or 1 post per weekday if you do the maths. Obviously, if you have a different schedule, 20 times a month is what they recommend. So you can do the maths yourself and figure out what is the best way for you to organize that. I've given you a lot of information. How do you get started? Obviously, you're not going to be active on all 5 platforms straight away. So I suggest just choosing one to start off with. And to do that, it's a good idea to look at the pros and cons. So with Facebook, there's a lot of people and everyone loves to share content on it. That's obviously a big pro. People are very, very willing to share things on Facebook. And because most people are on it, there's this ease of communication that works great for customer service. But on the negative side of things, it is quite noisy and it can be hard to be heard through everything else. And it doesn't help that there's also a low organic reach. So not everyone that follows you will necessarily see your content. So this kind of means that you have to pay for ads a lot in order to be seen. Twitter, on the other hand, is noisy, but brands and people still love it, and they love that about it. So tweets are really easy and quick because they're only 140 words. It's really good for marketing. 49% of people prefer to hear from businesses on Twitter. So people expect to be marketed there almost. In terms of cons, Twitter is really fast, so you have to post quite often in order for it to be effective. And it isn't great for image-based content. So like I was saying earlier, when you share an image with a tweet, it does get better engagement, but it doesn't really highlight the product or graphic that much. So if the product or graphic is important to your content, Twitter doesn't necessarily do it justice. Google Plus is amazing to talk to a super target audience. So their Google Plus communities are great. You can join a specific one to your industry. And when you share content there, you can guarantee that everyone is interested in your post because, you know, it's a specific community. So for example, if your industry is related to real estate, you can join a realtors community. And you can even join local ones as well if you need to get more specific. So that's amazing for that. Google Plus engagement can also have a positive effect on your SEO. Just a note on that though, I think that only applies if the person who is doing a search query actually is logged into the Google Plus account. So just to let you know about that. The cons are that it's quite quiet and it also has a bad rep for almost copying Facebook. So a lot of people don't really love it as much as they do the other platforms. And on the other hand, the people that do love it really love it. So there's a lot of a love-hate relationship going on there. LinkedIn has a really large organic reach, but so you put content out there and the chances are people will see it or your connections will see it at least. It establishes credibility with connections. So if you're a B2B, this is very important. On the negative side of things, it's a small niche and slow to set up and get going, so you don't see a lot of results from the get-go. Pinterest gets more referral traffic than Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit, and Google Plus combined, like I've already said, because it's very, very consumer-facing. Another positive is that your pins stay active for a long period of time, so the content stays useful even as you add new stuff. The bad side of things is that it's a small niche. B2Bs really aren't that active on it yet. It's also more effective for those businesses that actually have a physical product. So they're not a service. You know, they have products that they can take high quality photos of. And that's what people really go to Pinterest for, is the visuals. So as you can see, there are lots of pros and cons for every social media platform. Again, I would recommend that you just choose one based off of how much time you have, what content you have, what kind of business industry you're in, and get started just doing that one really, really well before you move on to the others. The thing is with social media for business is that it's really, really tempting just to start an account with them all and, you know, just do your best. But this isn't for personal reasons. This isn't a personal social media account. It's different. And there's nothing worse than somebody arriving on a social media platform to see no activity. You don't want that. So definitely start using one for business. And then as you get more comfortable with that, you can kind of go back and assess how much time you have and how comfortable you would be moving on to another one. So the first step to getting started with your social media is to create a business page. Now, every single social media platform that we mentioned today has a business page except for Twitter. The only issue with Twitter is that you do have to consider whether you want to have your Twitter account be titled as your business or your personal name, or both. So you have a name on Twitter and then you have a handle, and the handle is the @ and then whatever you have after the @ symbol. I've seen all of them work. I'm not sure which ones are the most effective, but that's the only thing that you have to consider when you're creating a Twitter account for your business. For Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and Google Plus, there are business pages. So you have to create a business page rather than a personal page. Once you've done that, you spend time thoroughly filling out your page. So that's contact details. Your About Me section is really, really important. People look at that to understand a business better. Profiles and photos and cover photos give off a professional image. So while I know it's kind of tempting to skip that, definitely don't. And then once you have your business page set up as fully as you can, add your social media links to your website or your emails. And your emails. This means that when people are on your website and they like what you do and they've had a great experience with you, they can easily follow you. So once you have your business page set up, you're ready to start posting. The easiest and most manageable way to do this is in batches. And by that, I mean scheduling all of your social sharing for the day or the week or the month in one go. This way, you'll be consistently sharing content without having to take time out of every single day to do so. So on weekends, or if you're on holidays, or if you're just busy in meetings, you're still sharing content on a regular basis. There are tons of tools that do that, including Spokal, Buffer, IFTTT, did I say too many T's? No, TTT, Social Oomph, Hootsuite are all great too. It's just kind of about personal preference when it comes to choosing a tool that really suits you. Most of these have free trials or a basic package as well to get you started and to test out which ones you'd like to commit to using. And I definitely would even try a few of them before you commit to just using one. So key takeaways from today. The first is choose just one platform to get started. I know I emphasize this a lot, but it's really, really important when it comes to social media for business that you don't underestimate how much time and energy it will take. So just choose one to get started, see how you're faring with that one, and then you can, go back and reassess which is the next step, which is the next platform you'd like to start on. Fill out your profile as thoroughly as you can. This gives an impression of professionalism to your customers. Use the 5-3-2 and the timing rules as templates to get started. So this is for those of you who aren't really sure how to get started, but you need to test it to see what works best for you. And finally, create a posting schedule and use a social media automation tool to share your content throughout the week. This is really important because if you don't do that, you're not going to be consistently sharing content, which is very important. You're not going to have the same consistent voice on social media, which is also really important. And, things happen to everyone. So we all have sick days or meetings. So it's very, very important that you don't have to worry that your social media presence is going to suffer. It will just be happening for you all the time. So that includes today's webinar. So now I'm going to open up the floor for questions. So there is a chat box on the side. If you can just send me a few questions. I already have a few, so I'm just going to look through them. Is it a good idea to hire someone to handle your social media accounts? Is a question that I've gotten a few times, actually. Yes, if you have the money, if you have the budget for it, and you don't have the time to do it yourself, definitely. It's not necessary, though. It is definitely manageable to do it yourself, and businesses everywhere do it themselves. So I'm not just saying this is standard, everybody operates their business social media presence usually themselves. So it can be a good idea, but it's not necessarily mandatory. somebody was asking, how do you build an audience on Facebook? Yeah, Facebook is quite hard to build an audience on nowadays. And I have to admit, Spokel doesn't really spend a lot of time on Facebook because for the time and the energy it requires to build an audience and the budget it requires to build an audience, we don't necessarily think it's a good investment for Spokel at this time. To grow a good audience, or to grow your audience on Facebook, you really need to, firstly, like I said, put all your social media following links in your emails and on your website. You also need to share amazing content consistently. You also should follow and like pages in your industry. Also, it does help if you kind of ask friends and family to help you share the Facebook page and share content from the Facebook page. And this is where, you know, you can really start to think about what kind of content you want to create, because if you create content that makes sense for you to ask your friends and family to share, that really, really helps with your initial kind of outreach. How much time do you spend on social media a day? I spend, I would say, altogether probably about, depending on the day now, probably about half an hour on average. That would be the minimum time I'd spend on it. Usually I spend probably about 45 minutes on average, and then an hour at the most. And that's if we're quite, you know, we're getting a lot of conversations generated on it, a lot of questions. I might spend a little bit more time on the social media platforms. And what I do is I give myself half an hour in the morning to set up the social sharing for the day. And kind of go on the Twitter account or a Twitter account and the Google Plus account and see if there's been any activity. And I have conversations with people. I answer questions. I ask questions if I don't know the answers to them. And then, yeah, so I do that first thing in the morning every day, except for weekends. In which case I do my weekend sharing on Fridays, and I give myself an hour to do that because I'm sharing for 3 days. So yeah, I would say I give myself 20 minutes to do the social sharing every day, 10 minutes in the morning to check in on the Twitter accounts more if there's more conversations, obviously. And then at the end of the day, I usually give myself another 10 minutes to check in on our accounts again and make sure that I didn't miss any questions, or to see if there's any new interesting information going on there. What's really important to say though, even though I spent maybe half an hour to an hour a day on social media, I have all the notifications on my phone for Twitter, which is our primary social media platform. I have all the notifications for that turned on my phone. So when we get activity on our Twitter account, I get notifications for it. I used to have them all checked, but we tend to get a lot of followers and a lot of retweets and favorites, and I don't necessarily need to engage with those. So I just have it checked when someone directly mentions us, and a few other things as well, just things that will need my direct attention. So even though I give myself maybe half an hour to an hour a day on social media, I tend to pop on throughout the day, maybe for a few minutes here and there to engage in conversations and give information and answer questions. So yeah, I would say minimum half an hour, maximum an hour a day. I think that's all the questions we have for today. If you have any more, please send me an email. Just reply to the webinar emails that you've got for this webinar. Again, you're going to get a replay in your email in a few hours. Feel free to send that on to anyone else. rewatch it if you'd like. And until we meet again, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I wish you the best of luck with your social media marketing.